What is going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Your Requests. This is the segment on my channel where you request movies to me to review. And I've been having a blast with this. I said it in my last video. I really enjoy when you guys request movies for me to watch because a lot of times it gets me out of my normal rotation of what I'm watching. I feel like sometimes I don't go back far enough or watch things from different time periods or different genres. And you guys requesting movies forces me to go and watch things that I might not necessarily pick. And this movie I was really interested to watch because it's directed by Christopher Smith, who I've actually watched a lot of his catalog. The first movie I saw from him was Consecration. I think I watched it on Shudder, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that movie. It was like a religious trauma, but done in a way that felt relatively formulaic and didn't add a whole lot of new to the conversation. It wasn't terrible by any means, but I still enjoyed it. And then recently, in the past couple years, I've reviewed his films Triangle and Creep. I really enjoyed Triangle a lot. Creep was about this creature in the underground subway system, and it was fine. It wasn't perfect by any means. So he's had an interesting filmography, and this is one that I've actually thought about watching a few times. I've read the plot description, and it's just never been anything that I've just wanted to jump right into and check out. So you guys requesting it gave me the opportunity to see it, and the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Severance. Severance is directed by Christopher Smith. Members of the Palisades Defense Corporation sales group arrive in Europe for a team building exercise. A fallen tree blocks the route and they must hike to their destination. However, a psychotic killer lurks in the woods and he has a horrible fate in mind for each of the co-workers. So, like I said, I was really looking forward to watching this movie because I enjoyed most of Christopher Smith's filmography, and I was not a big fan of this movie, unfortunately. I think it would be right there with Consecration as one of the worst movies in his filmography. I don't necessarily think this movie is like terrible. I think it has a really interesting concept, but to be quite honest, it's kind of a slog to get through. And I hate saying this about movies, but it feels incredibly dated, and not even in like a charming sort of fun way. It just feels really dated in like a lot of the cinematographical choices and in a lot of the choice in comedy, like just things that you probably wouldn't necessarily see anymore. And I think there's sometimes when you watch movies that it works really well, but in this particular instance, it did not work for me at all. So I'm going to talk about the movie with you a little bit today. So there are a ton of characters in this movie, but we're introduced to all of them on this bus on the way to this retreat. And as the plot description states, there's a block in the road. They have to walk the rest of their way to get to this place they're supposed to stay. And they get there, and when they arrive, the place is in complete disarray. It's disgusting. It's old. It's not anywhere that you would want to go to spend a vacation. And they're all a part of this defense organization that sells weapons to people, and which is funny to think that they're taking this kind of trip together. But they get there and everything is seemingly fine at first, and shortly after, people start seeing things. They start seeing someone outside. They're worried that someone is out to get them, and slowly but surely this killer shows up and starts taking them out one by one. And the entirety of the film is this group of co-workers trying to survive whoever this mass killer is and find out why he's there killing them. So like I said, I was not a big fan of this movie, and there are a multitude of reasons for that. I will say, for some positives, there are some creative kill sequences in this movie. I really liked the approach. Some of them are cutaway kills, which are a lot less interesting to me, but there's one in particular with like a beheading. The beheading happens off screen, but I really liked the cinematography and how they like spun the camera around from the perspective of the head rolling. I really liked little attention to detail like that made those elements of the movie entertaining. I appreciated that a lot. This had kind of like Friday the 13th vibe of like people showing up and getting killed off one by one by some mysterious mass killer, which is part of the movie I like. I think there's a lot of moments where they try to subvert your expectations of like, oh, one thing's happening, but we're going to kind of shift it and it's going to be something else. And anytime the director did that, I thought it did a better job of like building atmosphere and tension and dread. And I think that's what a movie like this needs. But aside from that, I don't have a whole lot of other positives. I think for an hour and a half runtime, this movie felt incredibly bloated. I really liked the setup. I thought, like, trying to establish the characters early on and kind of give them personality traits that you could attach onto helped a lot. But then as the movie progressed, I just cared less and less about the characters. I feel like there wasn't enough focus on any one of them specifically to create any sort of attachment to when they were in danger or anything, that you felt any sort of suspense. And there were some more unlikable characters that I think the whole goal was to try to get like a comedic punch out of their deaths. But that didn't really work either because of how hollow I feel like the characterization overall is. And when I mentioned Friday the 13th earlier, it's not like any of the characters in Friday the 13th are super deep. But the thing I like about Friday the 13th is all of the characters have overblown personalities, like to the most extreme degree. So it's entertaining to watch. It's like, even if it's just one thing, it's so overblown and absurd that you can attach it to that person, and watching them creates entertainment value. I just found myself to be relatively annoyed by every single person in this movie. I didn't like any single one of them to any specific degree. I disliked a lot of them quite a bit. And I know the point is that a lot of them are supposed to be unlikable, but it was like unlikable in the sense that, like, even though they're not likable people, there's not enough character traits to attach yourself onto. And that's what really made the movie a slog for me personally to get through, is just not caring about any single one of these characters. I also feel like the reveal at the end of the movie as to who's killing them off, like, it's just not that interesting. I wasn't like, oh wow, I'm super surprised, or I wasn't really like shocked, especially like when we're learning who this group is and like why they're there in the first place. It's not like there's any sort of shocking revelation there. So then it's all about the entertainment and the enjoyment of the experience, watching these people get picked off one by one. And I didn't find any of the situations to be creative or fun enough to really hook my attention. They really, in the third act, try to go in complete and total schlock territory. And there were moments like I chuckled, but I just found myself kind of going back saying, was this really worth an hour and a half long runtime? Because I think there could have been something really fascinating about, these people being a part of an organization that deals weapons. I think there could be some really interesting and thoughtful commentary in this movie, but it's just so surface level through the entire runtime. There's nothing there that really kind of sat and stuck with me. And it's not even just like turn your brain off fun, like people getting killed off one by one. It's just kind of grating. And that was disappointing. But like I said, I've watched this. This is the fourth film in this director's catalog I've watched, and I've been a fan of about half of it. So I'm a little disappointed I didn't like this more, but not everything's going to work for me. And I don't have much else to say about this movie. I just didn't really like it all that much, and I don't see myself revisiting it again in the future. Have you seen Severance? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I was not a fan of this movie. I think it had a lot of negative going for it more than positive for me personally. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.